also want to highlight some incredible reporting in The Atlantic by reporter Caitlin Dickerson, who joins me now. She spent 18 months investigating the Trump administration's family separation policy. Caitlin, what's the most important thing that people need to take away from your reporting?
I think the most important takeaway from my reporting for me is that in an administration like that of Donald Trump's, the ostensible agnostic moderates and their views and their actions are just as important as people who have really hawkish views. Stephen Miller, President Trump's chief immigration advisor, and another advisor, Gene Hamilton, who worked for the Department of Homeland Security and later Justice Department, they pushed aggressively and really without, they were just completely unabashedly for this policy to be put into place. But they also got buy-in from people who told me they really didn't believe in separating families, who said that, they thought somebody else was going to push back and prevent this from happening, or said, this idea sounded so outlandish, I just never thought it would go anywhere. And Stephen Miller and others who had these very harsh views, they needed the buy-in from those moderates, or they at least needed those moderates to stay quiet for this policy to be put into place.
And it took what you're saying basically more than just Stephen Miller and Donald Trump to carry this out. There's also this idea that taking away children was the intent of the policy. It wasn't just sort of a consequence. How did you prove that? What did your reporting show?
So there's evidence before, during, and after zero tolerance that family separations were the goal for those who are pushing most harshly for it. The first piece of evidence comes from Tom Homan, the head of ICE under Trump, whose idea it was to separate families, and he told me that that was his goal. But it also comes out of documents I obtained through FOIA, records that show, especially when early separations were happening, they were referred to very baldly as such in government documents. And then it was only later that the conversation changed. The administration started to argue that they were really only hoping to prosecute parents and not separate them. But then the last piece of evidence comes after separations had taken place, when documents show government officials worked to keep those families apart even longer after the prosecutions were complete.
And you report that they sought to obscure the sort of original intent of this. Talk a bit about that reporting and sort of how you were able to get people to explain to you how they were trying to hide this at one point.
Sure. So when the idea to separate families was first presented to Kirsten Nielsen, she was DHS secretary under President Trump when zero tolerance was ultimately put into place, she rejected it right away. She said, my predecessor, John Kelly, said no to this idea. I agree with him. We're not doing it. But instead, another version of family separations was presented to her. She was told, like we were just talking about, that, we just want to prosecute adults who are crossing the border and, who shouldn't be let off the hook simply because they're doing so with their children. And she was also told that this had been done before, which wasn't true. And she was assured by not only, again, sort of the more hawkish people in the White House, but also by these career bureaucrats who'd served under both Democrats and Republicans. They assured her that systems were in place to prevent prolonged separations from happening, and it wasn't true.
Yeah. And there is this lasting impact, the lasting trauma that you really detail so deeply here, especially as we know hundreds of families remain separated. What did you learn about the lasting trauma and also the real-time trauma?
The real-time trauma, was documented for me or detailed for me by a government official who was a Salvadoran consular official who watched separations take place. And she reaffirmed what families have been saying for years, that children and their parents were screaming and crying and asking for information about what was going on. And they were given almost no information. If anything, they were told something very simple, like we're under orders from Donald Trump to take your kids away. She said she's still haunted by the cries of the separated children in those detention centers. These families are still really struggling today. Some have filed lawsuits for damages against the government. Many have said to me that they just are looking for an official apology, which they haven't received. But I think more than anything, what I hear from separated families is they want an assurance this will never happen again. And of course, we don't have an assurance like that. There's no law preventing it. And in fact, many of the people who pushed for family separations during the Trump administration told me they still thought it was a good idea, and they would potentially be interested in re-implementing it.
And it's incredible reporting, Caitlin, in The Atlantic, one of the longest pieces ever published. So congratulations on that. But also, you just detail this so deeply. People should definitely go and take a look at that article. So thank you, Caitlin.